Well, what's going on, everybody? Hey, it's James Hollingsworth, and
Hey, it's Russ Jensen. How's it going?
we are here on the Working People's Podcast tonight. We're live streaming on YouTube and on Facebook. And if you are watching via YouTube, you know what to do. Come on, you know what to do. You better press that subscribe button. Come on, man. Working People's Podcast. Press that subscribe button. Give us some thumbs up, some love up in the house, and ring that bell, man. Push the notification bell so you can get notified whenever we're uploading new videos. And also, if you're watching via Facebook, come on, press the heart, press the heart, press the heart, and press that share button. Share this video because I'm telling you, it's about to go down. It's about to get real up in here, man. Press that heart button and press the thumbs up button. If you do press the angry, emoji, just please drop some comments and tell us why. You didn't like my smile? Was it my glasses? What was it? And also, if you are watching on Facebook and you let me press this. There we go. And you're watching on Facebook. You also share the video, press that thumbs up. If you press the laughing emoji too, tell us why. But Russ is here with me tonight on the Working People's Podcast. But before we get into this, I got just a couple things. All right, and that is make sure got my screen up. Screen. Oh, I got it already on. Sorry. There we go. Bam. There we go. Share my screen. Look at that. Oh my God. I kind of think I'm smart sometimes. Tomorrow night, Deidre is going to be with us again. Hey, and if you are looking for to upgrading your skills and career, you can contact Deidre. Her phone number is there at the bottom, 419-410-9438. And she is the owner, and she's a creative consultant and trainings. She offers training services, and she has the right training for you. Let us guide you and your employees to developing and growing new skill sets that are beneficial to improve your services, performance, productivity, and quality. If you're looking forward to upgrading your skills and career, join Deidre, call her up, and she'll be with us tomorrow night again, talking about business and talking about some other things. You know, I don't even want to give it up too much because I don't want y'all to miss it, man. Also, if you watched my last video where we were talking about the psychology of money, right? The psychology of money. And then you can see that video that I was talking about, The Secret to Selling the Negro from 1954. It's a documentary that was done where they showed that they were tracking spending and tracking earnings of African Americans in our country since 1939. And in 1954, the Black American family was about 15 billion, over 15 billion of the buying power in America. And as of recently, a video that I did 3 years ago, that buying power was $1.4 trillion. And as of 2021, the buying power of the Black community has increased to $1.6 million. And I don't want to show y'all that yet. Let me turn that off because y'all gonna be tripping. Y'all gonna be like, "What's that?" I'm gonna wait to show y'all that. All right. So Russ is back up. Let me see if I could put you back on the other side, Russ. Where do I have you at? Oh, okay. There we go. Gotcha. Woo! Let's get into this. Are y'all ready? Are y'all ready? Russ, are you ready?
I'm ready.
Are you ready? Russ, you got anything on your mind? Just like, on the top of your dome that you want to be like, let me get this off my chest.
Well, first thing, not a financial planner. I don't have any financial credentials other than the School of Hard Knocks.
The School of Hard Knocks.
Um,
That's what makes us work together good. You know what I'm
yeah,
saying?
yeah, and we were kind of talking a little bit before we went on before we went live, but we were saying these topics are they're heavy topics. I mean, they're things that what a lot of people don't talk about them.
Yep.
Um,
Facts.
and one of those, like, sometimes you kind of feel like, me personally, like I haven't attained my goals yet. So for me
Yeah.
to say, hey, you got to do this because I have this blueprint for success, I'm working through it just like you might be if you're watching this, if this is a topic that piques your
Hmm.
curiosity. So that's kind of one of the beauties about what we're doing here is we're walking through this topic hand in hand. So
Yes.
it's our metaphorical safe space, as they say. So
Yes.
we're gonna say some stuff that it's not really controversial. It's just one of those topics that a lot of people, they kind of understand, kind of don't. But our goal through this, at least on my side, is to try to be as transparent as possible. And if you have
Yes.
any questions, James, he's a great man, and he's a man of God, and that goes a long way in my eyes. So
Yep.
he has a passion of bringing content that can help people, and
Hmm.
ultimately, if this, like you said at the beginning, like, subscribe, share it, because just because you might have it figured out, if you do, great, but making sure that people around you understand and can get to that point, because collectively it's our community, and when everybody's strong, the collective is strong, that's how we move forward. And there's going to be a lot of people over the next 6 months to a year that probably need to hear this, and they're probably going to go through some hard times, and
Hmm.
it's our job as brothers and sisters in just life to be able to help
Yes.
our fellow man and woman out. So that's kind of what I had. I just wanted to kind of start that out by sharing what was on my heart. So
And Russ, that's what this space is for. That was one of my primary reasons for starting the podcast, and even starting it. The timing and what when we started it is wanting to help people and wanting to help people to navigate through this space as we're growing and building ourselves. Right. Um, a few years ago, like 15, 16, 17 years ago, I had to start all over again, from the ground up, from scratch. And even though some people don't know because I don't talk about it, even coworkers, in fact, Rush, you might be hearing it for the first time as well. Back in the mid 90s, I had my broker's license. I was working in the corporate space. I had went and taken the Series 7 exam, and I was in a program with the financial services company, and it was like a no. If you had one time to pass the test, so we had to do our life and accident health. We had to do the Series 66, was the fee-based planning financial advisor's license, and then the actual Series 7 broker's license. Take it one time. If you passed, you good. If you failed it, they were walking you out the door, straight up walking you out the door. And during my time there in the training program and getting going, I saw people get walked out the door, and I was like, I'm not getting walked out this door. And those tests were hard, man. Hard. And I passed them. Started in the financial services field. It just wasn't for me. It wasn't for me. And I moved on from that. And now I'm getting my hands dirty. You know what I'm saying? Getting my boots dirty, working with my hands, working in the natural gas utility services, field. And life is good. And I don't regret not being in that, doing that anymore. I really don't. But the things that I learned and have grown, over the last, what, how long we talking about? Is that 30, been 30 years? Like 95, 90? That's like 30,
27.
27 years. Yeah. Those things I've used in my personal life, and they helped me to start over again when I went through some setbacks in my own personal life, and helped me to get back up to a level. And thank God that He opened up those doors for me to learn those skills. And now I just want to share them with other people. Now that my life, through the grace of God, has been restored, I want to be able to give back, right? I want to be able to give back and help somebody else who maybe is starting from ground zero. I mean, literally from zero, from zero. In fact, that's a great segue into something that I didn't tell you, Russ, because I gave you some idea of what we're going to talk about, but I didn't give you everything. Did you know that out of all the wealthy people in America, all the millionaires, that 80, let me find that 79 to 88% of them, depending on which study you look at. If you look at Dave Ramsey studies, like 79, 80%, they're all first generation, first time millionaires. And out of that, check this out. Let me find this here stat. 78% of them were either they started off middle class or they were poor.
Yeah, that's we say we tend to talk a lot about our country and a lot of the dark times of our country, right? But
Yep.
that is I feel like one of the great opportunities why a lot of people came to this country was
Yes.
for the land. They called it the land of opportunity. And, a lot of people, you could look back through the past couple hundred years. I'm sure if you look at the number of the exponential wealth of people overall collectively, more millionaires, and you look at real estate. At one time I heard that was the largest
Yep.
volume of millionaires is
Yep.
real estate. So,
Hmm.
you talk about, different things that have happened, in the turn of the 19th century. And as that grew, you hit the Great Depression, but then you had, the Roaring '20s, and then you had the World War II happen. And then, in the '50s, just as people started, making more money, more opportunities through business, commerce, different things like that, So, that doesn't surprise me,
Yes.
if we're being honest, because there's a lot of old money, but there's also look at the past 10 years, look how much like
Hmm.
cryptocurrency, how many millionaires has cryptocurrency made, just out of people putting in money in that, and everyone thinks that's a quick get rich thing through cryptocurrency,
Facts.
but there's a lot of other businesses and people that have worked really hard to attain their wealth. So,
Facts. Hey, so Russ, the topic tonight, some people may think that I came up with it, but I actually didn't, right? You were the one that first mentioned the topic about financial maturity,
oh,
right? Right? Because that was really came out of your mouth, didn't it?
yeah, sure.
So do you have an kind of where did that thought even come from to even say that? What were you thinking when you thought about being mature when it comes to financial just wealth or financial stability or financial literacy or whatever?
So we were kind of a little bit of context for the people that are watching and listening. We were just
Hmm.
having a conversation even earlier today, just talking about what, if somebody had to be able to go out and make money, or to be able to go out and start generating wealth.
Yes.
There is a level, in my opinion, that a person needs to have that understanding. It's the adage, you can teach a person or you can feed a person a fish, you feed them for a day. You
Yep.
teach them how to fish, you feed them for a lifetime.
Hmm.
And I think about that and how it relates to financial success. And there's a lot of people who spend a lot of money on self-help. I mean, you can see it all the time. You stay up late if you can't sleep, watch the old infomercials. A lot of people now, it's probably taken a big hit now that people have lost or just gone to straight streaming services. But at one time, when you popped on cable at 11 o'clock to 4 a.m., all the regular programming went off and all the infomercials started. Do you want to
Facts.
lose weight, or do you want to learn how to make $1 million? And people just gravitated to that, those, because people are drawn. There's one side of things, in my opinion, that they're drawn to success.
Hmm.
Then the other side to it is you have to have that maturity to be able to take action. And that's what we were talking about earlier, is ultimately, there's a lot of people who spend a lot of money on, here's a blueprint for success.
Hmm.
But until that person gets to the point where they're ready, like a
Facts.
person is ready to start a diet, or ready if you struggled with any kind of alcohol or drugs, until that person is ready to start fixing what's going on, or ready to start making money,
Facts.
that it's not going to connect. You might have a one-off, there's exceptions to the rules, but by and large, you have to be ready in your mind, and it's a
Hmm.
mindset, and I was listening to a podcast today just about, they were talking. It was a comedian. I was on Joe Rogan, and they were talking about. He said there was a time in my life that I was like at the bottom of the
Wow.
barrel of what you would say would be a comedian, right? And he
Right.
said, I sat with you, Joe, and we were talking, and he said, be undeniable. That was what you told me. Be undeniable. So that's what
Wow.
everything he did. He would run his routine, and he would be gone for weeks at a time from his family. And every day he focused on that. And he built that up, and he got to the point where he was mature enough to be able to handle the discipline it takes, that it takes, the strategy behind it, to be able to understand all those things. I mean, there's a
Wow.
lot to learning about what wealth is. It's such a broad topic. What is be wealthy? What does that even mean?
Wow.
Be rich and what? I mean, if we're talking
Mm.
biblically, are we talking monetarily? What are we talking here? But
Yeah.
then it also, like, we could talk about real estate. We could talk about anything. There's money to be made in virtually every field.
Yep.
But until you understand what is your goal, and then build the plan to get to where you want to be, and that takes maturity to be able to start down that road. Because if you're not mature enough to be able to do the things and handle the things and understand the things that you need to understand, it's going to go in one ear and out the other. And
Russ,
that's what
when
I
you
meant.
talk about that, I think about from the church perspective a lot of times, how a lot of times, let's just, God, I hate to do this, but I'm going to do it. Put my foot right in my mouth, down the back of my throat. But from the pulpit, a lot of times it gets preached about this wealth that's based on character, and this wealth that's based on, if you're happy, you're rich, and if you have the joy of the Lord, you're wealthy, you're rich. Now a lot of times they preaching this to folk who's struggling, why they not, right? And I get it from the church perspective, and y'all Christians don't come at me start wanting to choke me, you know what I'm saying, through the screen. But let's be real about it. you know there is a connection. You could be singing the songs of the Lord like my mama used to do in the kitchen, and a little house that was so small the kitchen didn't even have a regular hardwood floor. It was like a dirt floor in that room. We were poor. We lived in East St. Louis for a while. If you think Flint, Michigan, or some other areas are bad, we lived in a neighborhood in like the servant quarters behind the main building, in the servant quarter house, and it was very small. And my mama, she would be frying chicken or whatever, singing songs and this, that, and the third. And when you're growing up a kid and you got food to eat and you got your parents and you're happy, you don't really get a perspective of what it means to be poor. But our parents understand the struggle of putting food on the table, the struggle of making sure that the bills get paid, and we don't have a day that we don't, in the wintertime, that we are going without heat, and in the summertime that we don't have either of these, can plug in a fan or something and put it in the window and try to get the heat out the house. Maybe some of y'all don't know about that. But from that perspective, we start telling people about being wealthy has no connection to money, as if we separate the two, that joy, happy, and all these other things, that some kind of way, that once now, granted, money don't make you happy. Let's be real about that. Money is not the source of joy and contentment. However, let's be real too, it makes life easier. It does help to make life easier, especially when you are in a position where you can help other people. So I sometimes have a problem with that. When we start trying to say spiritual maturity is also connected to that your joy and your happiness. And I know the Bible says in Nehemiah 8:10 that the joy of the Lord is your strength. I know what the scriptures say, so I'm not negating that. What I'm saying is, when you have people from an elevated position, from a pulpit or from a position of authority, preaching that way, but they ain't struggling like we are or you are. I didn't mean to throw that in there like that, but I want to, because sometimes it gets me when people use as an excuse for being really, really in a tight, struggling financial position, when they use as an excuse for laziness and sometimes just not wanting to be better stewards of the money that God has blessed you with, then they use as an excuse, well, the joy of the Lord makes me happy. When they use that as an excuse for being bad stewards.
Yeah. Amen. It's true what you said. Everything. If I had I guess I do have a like button. I like that.
Come on now. So that spiritual maturity, also, it's kind of connected to like what you're saying is sometimes we really want to walk into a place of being above average. And let's look at this slide. I want to show y'all this slide because this can kind of take you step to step. Let's look at this. I'm going to share my screen again. Let's go back to screen share, pull this up because I want y'all to see this. Boom. Hit that button. And finding where it's at. Right here. Something that you said brought this to mind for me. Okay, so where is it at? I got to make sure. I'm new at doing this, right? Okay, so show on screen. There we go. Here we go. So let's pull this up. So remember you talked about that downtime in the stock market and when things were bad in the 1930s.
Yeah.
So look at this. Right there on the slide. If you can, I don't know if you can see it, Russ, but I see it.
Yeah,
it shows
small.
It's small. Oh yeah, small. Okay, so it shows when the Great Depression hit, there was like over 81% loss in the market, literally just like that, quick, over really fast. But then after that, look what happened. Almost 14 years of total returns of over 800%, with annual returns of 17.2%. So what people need to understand is when things are bad, right, it looks bad, but that shouldn't be a case for us to be fearful about getting involved in investing in the market.
I agree. There's it's funny. The people that are wealthy,
Mm-hmm.
even when there is prices go down, they still make money.
Absolutely.
So, I don't know how many people really realize and understand that, but, you always think, well, you buy low, sell high. And the more you understand about the stock market, the more that you learn that there's ways to make money on both sides. However, whatever your position is or what you're trying to attain, your
Mm-hmm.
case, the wealthy people, the people that understand the stock market, don't get the fear of missing out. They have their plan that, hey, we're
Yes.
going to get to this certain point, and then once we get here, then we're going to work it the other way, because they understand how the market works. And to your point, when you were talking about how it grew exponentially 800 and some percent over 14 years, that's incredible.
Yeah, that's incredible. After a really bad time.
Yeah, and the average person at that point, the unskilled person at that point, was not in the market. They had that fear. They didn't have that understanding, while the wealthy people hopped back in when it was right, and then they rode it up. And that's, it goes back to that understanding. It goes back to the maturity of understanding what you're doing. If you're doing real estate, understand real estate. If you're going to do the stock market, first off, I would recommend that you work with somebody who's licensed and understands it.
Yes.
The School of Hard Knocks can be very unforgiving for a novice person. So understanding it's a lot easier. And that kind of, I said this earlier too, there's times, when you have to pay for that knowledge.
Oh, yes.
For that, and balancing the paying for the understanding. we talk about, like, I heard somebody, he was a plumber, and they were saying, like, they quoted a job and they said, whatever the job is, and the customer said, well, that's really expensive. Can't
Mm-hmm.
do it for this price. And so the plumber gave him a couple parts and said, well, here you go. The person said, what are you doing? And the plumber said, well, you're also paying me for my years of experience. You're
Absolutely.
paying for that. You have to understand that. Now, that doesn't mean we get taken advantage of.
Mm-hmm.
Sure that we clarify that, right? But understanding that you're paying, sometimes you have to pay. If you're behind the curve, you have to
Yes.
get that help, and sometimes the only way to get the help is to pay for it.
Absolutely.
And whatever it is, whatever you're doing, whatever your niche is, whatever your part of your plan is, it could be
Mm-hmm.
picking up pop cans in Michigan for 10 cents a can. If that's what you want to do to try to make an extra $30,000 and build up your nest egg, you're going to collect every pop can and bottle that you can. Then that's what your goal. That's what your plan is. You work your plan,
Facts.
and whatever your niche is. But sometimes you do have to pay
Facts.
for that experience and knowledge.
So we talked about a plan, right? So if we're going to talk about really going into a place of having financial literacy or this financial maturity that we're talking about, it comes with developing a plan. It comes with developing a plan. It comes with becoming hungry for knowledge, to educate yourself, and that's one of the things. Remember, Russ, I said it like, if look, the number one thing that number three things I could say to anybody when it comes to the financial matters, financial markets, investing, all of that. Educate yourself. Number one. Number two, educate yourself, and number three, educate yourself, because what ends up happening is if you hear some bad advice, you'll think it's good advice, and then converse to that. If you hear some good advice, then you'll think it's bad advice, because you really haven't educated yourself. And I see it happening all the time. And now that we have social media, and some people can say it about me. What is this guy? What gives him the right to say what he's saying? What credentials do he have? That's why I just kind of loosely mentioned, and I hate even going there, talking about my previous life before I got into construction and the utility gas, blue collar world, is because some people won't listen to you until you start throwing degrees, throwing credentials, and throwing all of that stuff on the wall to make it stick. And then they'll be like, oh, he he has, a broker's license, and he's been 20 years, right? Some people won't listen. That's why you got to educate yourself, because some people come off like they really got it together, and they really spending some knowledge on you. And I didn't, since the 90s, early 90s, in the early time. See, some of y'all ain't been around. I might look a little younger, but I'm 55 years old. And I've been around the investing space a long time, since like the early 90s, right? In the infancy stage of the internet on dial up, when you had to get that disc, right? With the internet on that disc. And we had floppy drives, and we had to go a some a colon backslash and the transfer sign to C colon back. Y'all don't know nothing about that, right? Because we got swiping now and all this other stuff. Y'all don't know nothing about those first online platforms, and back in the day, that if you were going to trade stocks, you had to go to a broker and bring at least $5,000. Y'all don't know about them days when you had to read magazines, Investors Business Daily, because we got the phone and we could just Google. We can Google. You know what I'm saying? We could Google what we want. You don't know about them days where you had to read Kiplinger's magazine and Money magazine, and Mutual Funds magazine, one of my favorites, and look at the 10-year returns and do your studies based on a whole bunch of, you'd have 10 magazines on the table studying different mutual funds, because we didn't have Google, we didn't have the internet and stuff like we have now. And so back in those days, you had to put some effort into it. And now that things are easier, it amazes me. I'm gonna throw this statistic out. Remember I said earlier about Black America, $1.6 trillion, 2021 statistics. $1.6 trillion buying power, number 3 in America. But yet, according to Entrepreneur Magazine and Black Enterprise Magazine, as far as millionaires in America, Black African Americans are only about 2%. But we are number 3 in buying power because we spend 85% of all the money that's spent on hair products. 85% of that is spent by Black people. And we're not taking our money and using it to build wealth. But I hear generational wealth just about on everybody's coming out of everybody's mouth. Look, one thing about James Hollingsworth, if I start saying something, I've done my homework and I know what I'm talking about. Millionaires, how many of them do you think are single women? 86.5% of all millionaires are men. That means the other 13.5% are women. Now, don't get mad at me. Now, how many do you think are single Black women? The numbers are small, and I'm not trying to come at nobody, sideways. I'm just giving you the statistics, the numbers. Are there anomalies? Are there unicorns? Are there exceptions to the rule? Absolutely.
Yep.
Absolutely, there are exceptions to the rule. But I said in my video, I believe that the foundation for building wealth in America is the family. How many millionaires do you think are married? According to a study recently did, one of the biggest studies, biggest polls put together since the Millionaire Next Door, that 30-year study was done by Dave Ramsey. They interviewed and they surveyed over like 10,000 millionaires. How many do you think was married? It's like 76, 80 something percent of millionaires are married. So one of the secrets to building wealth is making relationships work, making the covenant of marriage work. I didn't mean to get excited about it, but what sometimes irritates me is when we so loosely start throwing out these terms about, oh, I want to build generational wealth and I want to do this. And then if somebody start quoting some statistics to you, you start pulling yourself out of that as if you somebody different, like that don't apply to you, like the majority don't apply to you. And we start living in some type of fantasy la-la land. The truth is that if you want to tread the path of growing wealth in America, you got to do it systematically. You got to do it with a plan. And a lot of times you got to do it in partnership and work with somebody to build it. That is what financial maturity looks like. Sorry, Russ, I didn't mean to get all excited about it, but that's financial maturity.
Yeah. Preach it. Keep going. Keep going.
Yes, I didn't mean to get all about that. But when you talk about building wealth, let's get into something that I think really hinders people from doing it. This idea about appreciation versus compounding.
Okay.
Right. And I don't know. We didn't really talk about it and go into like details about it. But just to give you an idea of what I'm saying about that is some people think that you can just buy an asset and hold it forever and it's going to make you wealthy. Not understanding why Einstein said what he said about that compound interest is the 8th wonder of the world. If you think that you're going to buy, and let me use this analogy because I talked to a friend of mine. Don't take this personal if you watch this podcast, but I'm just giving an example because this is for education for all people, right? For all of us. If you go out and you buy you some, can manage to get the money together and buy you some gold, right? Gold is a steady asset that's used for leverage. That's why the American dollar used to be backed by it. It's a great asset for building the foundation of wealth, also using it to leverage and sustain wealth, to pass it from generation to generation. It's a stability factor. But you're not going to see gold rising astronomically quickly or dropping astronomically quickly. Just the other day, the price of gold maybe dropped like $13, right? It's a pretty safe investment. It's used to leverage and to leverage wealth and help sustain it, right? But it's an appreciable asset that grows steadily but slowly. And if you think you're going to just buy a little bit of gold and hold on to it, your great your great, 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 great grandchildren will probably still be holding on to it. Yeah, you'll be secure in a lot of ways. But if you're talking about being wealthy, no, you have to grow wealth through one house is not going to make you wealthy if you're getting into real estate. Two houses is not going to make you wealthy. The numbers don't add up. Three houses. If you don't believe me, I don't have time to go into all the numbers. Trust me, try it for yourself and see if it works out. You got to hold a portfolio of houses of real estate, right? Because those assets begin to mature and grow, right? But oftentimes it's the cash flow that comes from it and the reinvesting of those funds back into something that can grow with compound interest. The magic of compounding interest causes your money that has earned interest to earn interest. That is one of the best ways to grow into wealth, not just holding one type. You can get gold, you can own real estate, you can invest in the market. You want to diversify, right? And I know I'm talking kind of fast about a lot of things, but when we talk about appreciation versus compounding, some people think they can get there with just appreciation. And it's very hard, if almost impossible. Once again, alluding back to Dave Ramsey's study, and I'm going to hand it to Russ. How many people do you think became wealthy through something outside of investing? Only about 20%. 80% of all the people studied and surveyed, 80% of them had invested into a 401k. Regular working people. That's why we have the Working People's Podcast, because 80% of the people that they studied and surveyed, 80% of them worked and invested into a 401k.
So when you were talking about the Einstein quote, it's, what is it, the eighth wonder of the world, right?
Eighth wonder of the world.
Now, have you ever finished that quote?
Go ahead, you finish it,
Okay.
because you know. Come
He
on.
who understands it earns it, and he who doesn't pays it.
Pays it.
Ooh, that gave me goosebumps. Actually,
Oh,
it's incredible.
oh
But a
my
lot of people
God.
don't understand that. I don't know. I just kind of get like a little
Goosebumps.
It is. I mean, this kind of stuff. It is fun. It can be scary, but it's fun.
But it's fun.
It's fun because, when you talk about the opportunities, a lot of people that probably don't know who I am, and I'm really nothing in the grand scheme of things. We work together. I have 3 children, and I'm married. And when we talk about what does that look like from a wealth standpoint and generational wealth, and my dad is a sales guy. He's also a minister. So growing up, we did not have a lot of money. And when you're a kid, like you were saying, it hit me because we didn't really realize that we maybe didn't have a lot of money.
All right.
We had to move a lot. But we always had food on the table, and we were able to enjoy our time with family and the whole nine. So from a standpoint of like looking back at my childhood, I wouldn't change anything. But as a parent, you always want your kids to have better, have more,
Yes.
right? That's
Yes.
usually the goal. And
Yes.
and when we talk about the legacy aspect of it, is in general, like we want, as parents, we want our kids to be successful, but not just be successful, but we want something great for them.
Facts.
And so for me as a dad, for me as a husband, I'm always it has caused a lot of stress sometimes in my marriage, because sometimes we have to be in lockstep, like you were saying, as a partnership, and understanding that, and the yin to the yang, and I'm super aggressive. I'm relentless when it comes to what I want for my family, and and that's why I get excited about it too, because I'm very passionate about this, because I want my children to understand. Well, I want them to see every day, when I put my work shirt on and I put my boots on, they understand that dad's going to work. And I come home and they see, dad's home, and they understand what hard work is. I'm
Facts.
in the process of me and my dad and my brother work together. We have a real estate business on the side, and we're in the middle of a flip property. I've taken the kids over there, and I've let them move some trees branches around and
Yes.
and
Yes.
get dirty, because I want them to understand what it looks like to work hard, and that kind of stuff. It gets me going, because I want them to understand that this life is not going to be easy, and there's going to
No.
be times when you're going to have to work really hard, and you're
Yes.
going to probably fail.
Yes.
But I want them, if I leave nothing else, I could, my money could vanish. But if I can teach them what it's like to work hard to be able to obtain their goals,
Right.
that is instilled that ability for them, metaphorically, to be able to go out and fish.
Yes.
I want them to be able to go out and fish, and you can't ever work too hard, in my opinion.
Absolutely, man. You can't
So-
ever work too hard. You can't ever work too hard.
No.
And the truth is, there's a reason why one of the smartest men in the world said what he said about compound interest. It's truly magical in the way it works. So I want Russ. I'm gonna show you a slide for. I think you'll be able to see it on the screen.
Okay.
That it actually kind of talks about the growth pattern of just starting from here and working your way up through 7 steps of just building up to a place where you're, financially stable, right? So let's pull this back up. I want you all to see this here. Can you see that, Russ?
Yes, sir.
So it talks about these 7 levels of financial freedom, right? And remember, you have brought up so many important key points for the content that we've been talking about here on the Working People's Podcast. You're the one that brought up the idea about mindset, and you're the one that brought up the whole idea of financial maturity. So the think tank, and what you bring to the table in terms of your mind and how you think, and how broad sometimes when we're having conversations, that you're able to think outside the box. So the first step, they say, number 1 is clarity. You figure out where you are financially and where you want to go. Remember that impromptu video we did, and you talked about how you need to sit down? You remember that, Russ?
Yep.
Yeah. Can you give you some insight on what your thoughts are about step number 1?
Well, it's exactly that. It's the awareness aspect of it. You have to understand what your, I guess what your base level is, and that could be starting out from a budget, understanding, monitoring what you're bringing in every week, and what you're spending every week. You have to have a financial picture of what your life is like. And that's really the only way to understand how to build your plan. If you have no idea what your financial picture looks like, you're just going to be chasing the target, having no idea, walking aimlessly through the proverbial desert, trying to be rich. If you have no idea that every month you're bringing in $5,000 and you're just spending 10, you're never going to get to that point. So you have to understand where you're at.
Good point, man. And step number 2, and we bring that back up. Step number 2 is self-sufficiency. Now, I know a lot of us are past the point where we're moving out of our mom's house. We're grown now, right? But basically what it's saying in step 2 is you are at a place where you can cover your expenses. You can pay your bills. You got any thoughts on that one?
Yeah, so I think there's times in our life where it's actually like scientifically proven that we get to a certain level, and it's like the launch pad, so to speak.
Mhm.
So you'll see people that go through this, the term failure to launch, that's actually scientifically a term for people who aren't able to launch into the world. The society.
So you're talking about like breaking cycles of dependency.
Yes,
Especially when it comes to economic dependency.
Yeah, absolutely. But even just, I think from a mindset standpoint, we get to a point where we have to be able to, like this says, you moved out, your mom and dad's can cover your expenses. You're able to take care of yourself. You hope that all the work that you've done up to that point has prepared you to move out.
Mm-hmm.
I think I'm not going because you're clearing yourself.
Yes. I don't know if can you still hear me?
I can.
Okay, perfect. And then step 3 is you're saving some money and no longer living paycheck to paycheck. And step 3 begins to take you to step 4, some stability. You have no bad debt, and you have 6 months worth of expenses for emergency, at least 6 months worth. So that these 2 steps here, steps 3 and 4, are critical points. This is where now you have to start being disciplined. Steps 1 and 2, hopefully you get to a place where you understand the importance of that it takes you changing your mindset about money. Where you begin to discipline yourself, and now you begin to, no longer have to live from paycheck to paycheck. You're living beneath your means. And that study that was done by Dave Ramsey, 10,000 millionaires, that was studied. 94% of them said that even now they have always consistently 94% of them say they lived beneath their means, right? And then you get to a place where now you have gotten rid of all this any bad debt that you may have, and that you begin to build up some emergency funds and have a little savings. You got any insight on that too, Russ, on those 2 steps, 3 and 4?
So when I see bad debt, that's I think sometimes a lot of people don't understand that. And when we think that, we think, like credit card debt. But sometimes your house necessarily isn't bad debt. So understanding that just because you have debt doesn't necessarily mean it's all bad. So differentiating that's the company. But also you have to understand, and it goes back to number 1, the clarity. Getting to that point where you're spending and you know what your need is, and then you plan to live beneath that so you can continue to build and grow your money.
Yes. And for me, Russ, what I noticed personally in my life, and this might sound a little anecdotal, and you can tell me what your thoughts is on it, is that step from 4 to 5 becomes smaller. That first step and that second step and third step, man, it seems like trying to jump across a creek. You know what I'm saying? But once you get to step 4, going over into step 5, you have at least 2 years of expenses saved. You could take a year off of work. It's as hard and challenging as it may sound like. That step really isn't too far away, in my opinion. But what do you think about that? Going from 4 to 5.
It does take time, and that's the part we talked about earlier. You're talking about instantaneous gratification.
Yes.
And understanding that plan that it takes, it's going to take time to get to that point. But as your money starts to grow, that's about compounding interest and things like that. Your money starts to grow. So would you rather have a big pile of money that's growing, or little? It's just obviously you want a big pile that's growing, right? Because it's going to continue to snowball. And that's kind of when you reference Dave Ramsey, that's also one of his ways to eliminate your debt. Is you start out with the small credit cards first. That you have credit card debt, you pay off your small cards, and then you start putting that, and it calls it like that snowball, and you're able to start working, and that money starts really paying off the larger sums that you're trying to get. So it's the same with saving your money.
And you're not going to get there without a plan.
Nope.
That's one thing I want us to really emphasize and drive that point home. When you're talking about moving through these steps, these 7 levels of financial freedom, you're not going to get there without a plan. It just don't happen because you wish it to, or even because you desire it to. You really got to sit down and put some thought into this and you got to get to the place where now you're doing good things out of habit, just like a lot of people now are doing a lot of making bad decisions financially out of habit. And once you discipline yourself and you move up through these steps, you get through steps 4, and now you get to a place where you really got some savings there that if you wanted to, you really could take a year off work. Okay. And then to move up into step 6, and me and you talked about this once, that as you move up and the higher you go and the more that you get yourself settled financially, it really does get easier. Step 6, you can live off the income your investments generate. There's a concept that I'm going to eventually talk about one day in the video. It's called volume, and what that means. I'm not going to go into it right now, but this is referencing that volume. You get to a place now where you could truly live off the income, the interest that's being generated from your investments. Give us your thoughts on that.
I had a thought earlier that occurred to me when we were talking about building up and letting the money work for you. And a lot of times, really, the mindset of like real estate, and it goes back to what you were saying earlier with one property might not get you what you want. So when you're figuring your goal, let's say your goal is positive cash flow of $300 on a property. Well, if you know what your goal is for your money, that helps you to be able to obtain how many properties you need to get to be able to have that monthly income. So that's kind of the cool thing about seeing that financial independence when we talk about you can live off your income and understanding. And it is important too that you should have expenses saved in case something were to happen. So I agree with that.
Now, what's your thoughts about number 7? Getting to that. Oh my God. Ooh. Thank you, Lord. Oh, hey, where the organ at? Who got the Hammond organ? Will somebody start playing some music for us to start dancing and shouting up in here?
I am not at step 7.
Oh my God. Not yet. My plan in 10 to 13 years, I'm going to be there. Plan is written out, going forward to plan. Financial, advisor. I've said it 1,100 times. I hired a financial advisor, even though I have skills and I know certain things. I hired a professional to handle things for me, to help me with my plan, to come up with my plan. In 10 to 13 years, I'll be there.
Yeah, that should be everybody's goal. Get to 7.
Everybody's goal to get there to 7. If your thought is, oh well, I'm doing good and I want to live my life and I want to enjoy myself and this, that, and the other, the Bible talks about a righteous man. What does he do? He leaves an inheritance to his children's children. Why wouldn't we want to help the next generation not to have to struggle financially like we did? Right?
Yep.
But the mindset of so many people, remember we were talking, Russ, is so many people got this mindset like they want to be rich and want to be wealthy, but they critical and talk derogatory about people that are rich and wealthy.
Can you hear me okay?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, there you go.
Perfect. Yeah, so I think there is a stigmatism sometimes around people. Like, it's just one of those things. It's like I said, it's one of those topics that we only think, oh well, only rich people can do that. Only rich people like for me, I've never hired a financial advisor. So when you say I hired a professional, to me that sounds expensive.
Yeah, pay a monthly retainer every month.
Yep.
On the 15th.
Talk about that. What is that? How does that? I would have never known that. And that's the thing. But those are conversations that when you talk about, helping out future generations, these are the conversations that it's okay for our kids to understand and have conversations with them. Just like we teach them, say our prayers at night, that's good. We take them to
Yeah.
church. It's good for them to understand what does it look like. If you ever taken your kid to the bank, they understand what it's like. I mean, look at where we are from like a financial literacy. Go to
Hmm.
ask a kid to write a check. mean, Half the time they can't write in cursive, let alone be able to do that part of the check. But have them write a check. What does taxes look like? I mean, I know some families who it's kind of cool to see what they do from their allowance standpoint. They tax them. They understand, like they get then they save the tax up and they use it towards buying something for what the family needs. But those are
Yeah.
examples of what you're teaching your kids financial literacy and understanding that. When you talk about that step 2, the self-sufficiency, understanding as a child, when they understand what it's like to pay taxes and asking those questions, why this is why we're doing it, explaining it to them.
Hmm.
Because they're growing, they're understanding. And then when they get to that point of adulthood, when they're getting ready to bounce out, they understand, like, hey, listen, like, I understand just because I make whatever $20 an hour or $10 an hour, I'm not getting the full 10.
Yes.
And understanding, you should be saving part of that. You should be, breaking it up, and half of it's going to go here, and this is where the other percentages are going, and letting them be part of a budget, helping them understand that, and integrating that into your family. And some of that, like, I kind of maybe I need to be speaking to myself a little bit more on this, because as I say some of the stuff, I'm reflecting internally on the things that I'm not doing as a dad. And they're seeing some of the things, but I'm also, and they're young too, right? 7, 5, and 2.
Yes.
I'm not expecting my 7-year-old to be able to go out and fill my 1099 form out, right? But understanding as they get older, bringing them into the fold when it comes to business related things and letting them be a part of the conversation. Just like we have conversations about all sorts of things that are going on in society.
Absolutely.
We need to be having more conversations with our young people about financial literacy.
Absolutely.
And teaching them. I think that's one of the things that we as a society and as elders in society need to do a better job of with our youth is helping them understand what financial literacy looks like, because I feel like we don't really prepare people well for that.
Discipline, delayed gratification, understanding that you're not going to get there. Listen to me. You could say, I don't know what I'm talking about. You can go off and try it on your own. But I tell you what, let's exchange phone numbers, and I'm going to call you when I get to step number 7. And you call me when you get to step number 3. You can't do it through appreciation only. Shall we repeat that? You cannot do it through appreciation only. You got to do it through the growth of compounding. If you merge the two strategies together, you put together more of a diverse, very solid, well-rounded plan. Yes, you need appreciation. You need to acquire appreciable assets, because that helps your net worth to grow, right? But you cannot do it through appreciation alone. You need to merge that with compound interest. The rule of 72s, that at 15% interest, 4.8 years, money doubles. At 12% interest, money doubles every 6 years. You need to merge a well-rounded strategy together. Yes, acquire appreciable assets, but not just that alone, because you're not going to get there. I'm trying to tell you, I'm trying to hope you, as the old folks say about down in the country. Boy, I'm trying to hope you. You're not going to get there through appreciation alone. You got to also use the power of compounding interest. Once again, let's recap Dave Ramsey's study. We all know Dave Ramsey is credible source. 80% of all millionaires, do you remember, Russ? How did they build the wealth of becoming millionaires?
Was that
through a company sponsored plan, 401k, 401k. Company sponsored plan? 80%. How many of them do you think own the business? If you all don't believe me, pull up the studies yourself. Put me on pause, rewind it, double tap the screen so it'll go back 10 seconds, listen to it again, And then how many of them do you think were business owners? Like barely like 20 something, maybe 22%. Like
Yeah.
22%. But the bulk of millionaires between 1 million and 5 million, the bulk of them accumulated their wealth through strategic, steady, consistent investing. 3 out of 4 of those millionaires said that they did it through steady, consistent investing over time. One of your best friends is time, not trying to get rich overnight. And if you really think that you could just throw caution to the wind and just say, well, I'm just gonna go out there and play the lottery, and you haven't educated yourself and disciplined yourself and changed your mindset, you'll probably be broke in 6 months.
Well, that I don't know the studies offhand, but I believe what I've heard last, the vast majority of people who end up winning the lottery are broke within, I think
like
it is
like
6 months
like
to
a
a
year,
year.
wasn't it? Like a
Yeah,
year.
it's pretty quick because it goes back to that maturity that we talked about at the beginning, not understanding what money really looks like, and so yeah, that's it's one of those things.
So one of these days, what we're going to do is we're going to actually show you some compounded numbers. We're going to actually put them on a screen, show you over 20 years if you invest this amount at the standard rate of what a lot of financial advisors will say it's appropriate to use, 9%. Now, those of you, if you are consistent, avid Dave Ramsey watchers, you know Dave Ramsey says 12%, 12% returns, right? But the average financial professional and advisor, if you go to them and they put a portfolio and a plan together for you, they're going to go on the conservative side because they have to abide by the rule of what is called the prudent man, right? And so they will say like 9 to 9.5%. They will project you up at. But in the real world, if I was just being James Hollingsworth, that guy that I know on this podcast, I know I have to word things a certain way and I have to say things a certain way. I have to um because unless you are presently holding certain licenses, you have to word things a certain way and you have to give full disclosure. There's things that you have to do. So I know that if I was outside of that realm and I was just going for, I would be like, yo, Dave Ramsey, yes, 12%. That's what we going for. In fact, let's go for 15%. Let's go and see if we can average 15% interest for the next 10 years. Come on, let's go. I'll be just right there with Dave Ramsey, high fiving, 12%. But in the real world, right, where you go into a financial broker's office, he's got his suit and tie and his presentation on the table, and you sit down before him, he's going to project your numbers at like 9 to 9.5%. So we're going to show some numbers in the future, and we're going to show you the power of compounding interest, what it can do. You can't figure these numbers out on a regular calculator because the calculator is not going to put those exponential numbers in there and show you how that interest begins to earn interest and the compounded interest grows over time. But before we wrap up everything tonight, and I know we've talked about a lot of numbers and the maturity. Man, Russ, thank you, bro, for joining us. Thank you for coming on the Working People's Podcast. Thank you for, man, just your insight, man, and your clarity about the subject and how man, I love the way how you think, man, and how you think so far outside of the box. You're yeah, you already know, bro. You already know, man. But hey, give us what your wrap up. What would your wrap up be tonight? What do you want people to really take home from this conversation?
So I think we talked about it the last time too, but I think if I'm recommending anything to a person, I believe that the first thing that you need to do is you first need to reflect inwardly on what you want.
Mm,
And I liked, I believe it was Divine, I think. They were talking about a vision board earlier. I think I saw
yeah.
something on a vision
Okay.
board. Write the vision down and make it the plan. That really kind of resonated with me a little bit, because when you read different financial books, and it's one thing, I mean, full disclosure, I haven't read a lot of the popular books that everybody talks about as the best financial advice book they've ever read or whatever, Think and Grow Rich and all that kind of stuff. I haven't. I listen to a lot of people talk. I listen to it. We do a lot of driving, James and I do. And I listen to a lot of podcasts, and I try to talk to people, and I try to really ask questions. But one of the things that I'm trying to do a better job of is I'm trying to do a better job of being intentional with my vision, what I want to do. But ultimately, as a person, from one person to the other, you need to understand what you want to do. And then from there, then let's start making the plan. But it's really easy to go out and say, I want to make $1 million.
Yes.
Cool. Well, how are you going to do that? Don't know. What kind of skills do you have? None. Okay. All right. So let's take a step back here, understanding what you want in your life. Now, if you do want $1 million, that's great. If that's what your goal is, to be a millionaire, then let's do it. Let's talk about that. But first, it takes a step of first understanding, and then planning, and then from there, it goes back to being disciplined. But we threw a lot of things out today about compound interest being great, and maturity, and whatever your mantra is on where you want to get to. If you want to do it for your children, then do it for your children. But I also think that it would be good to bring your children in with you. So then that would be a step for them to be able to go down a journey. Because if you just leave them $1 million, and you haven't prepared them to understand what it looks like to have that responsibility, because with great power comes great responsibility, right? That's what they say. You have to prepare them, and ultimately that comes with the maturity that we spoke about. So absolutely. There's, like I said, James, I too want to thank you for always being that person to, you lift me up, and that does mean a lot. I thank you for that. You too are full of knowledge and wisdom, and I can't thank you enough for what your friendship means to me, and the ability that you take out of your time to be able to put this content out for people, because it is a passion of yours, and I enjoy talking about it. Oh man, yes. I wish I was at step 7 right now. Oh my God. But we're gonna be there, bro. If we keep doing what we're doing and staying on the path and stay in the course, we will be there. And that's why I started this podcast now, to take people on the journey with us. Do you want to partner with us on this journey? Let's grow together. Let's talk about this stuff and this content together, because I'm not there yet, but I want to be there, and I'm going to be there, and I'm obsessed. I hate to use that word because it's like taboo, but I'm obsessed about getting there. That's why I put a plan in motion. That's why I'm doing some of the things that I'm doing, that as the days come, I'll even explain what some of those things are. And I've literally written out a step-by-step. I'm not sharing it yet because it's not time. I've written out a step-by-step plan on how you can literally go from 0 to get to your first 100,000, to get to your next 300,000, to get to that 500,000 mark, where 50% of Americans are, and then to get to that 1 million mark. I've written out a detailed step-by-step plan on how to get there, because I've been following it for the last 4 to 5 years, so I know it works, right? And I want to, at some point, we're going to roll it out and share it with everybody, and share it with you all, and show you how to do it and how to move through these steps and progressions, right? But also, one thing that I want to leave with everybody tonight is, look, folks, you got to get control of your spending. We talk about coming up with a plan, but a plan means nothing if your spending's out of control. If you're in debt. Dave Ramsey, we've called his name a lot tonight. He has one of the best programs in the world on getting out of debt. Study it. Get out of debt. Get control of your spending, right? Because it's not about how much money you make. You will be surprised how many of those millionaires never made over 6 figures. It's not about how much money you make. It's how much money you keep. Can you live for a extended period of time
for a long period of time? Can you live beneath your means? Because financial literacy and financial maturity is you have to be a good steward over what you have. If you are wasteful, if you are irresponsible, I'm sorry to be just keep it straight like this and be real. If you are irresponsible and you can't handle, I'll say it again. If you, however you are with $20, it's the same way you're gonna be with 200. However you are with $200, it's the same way you're gonna be with 2,000. And if you can't handle the stress and the problems that come with $2,000, don't be on your knees praying, asking God to bless you with 20,000. And if you can't handle the stress and don't know how to manage 20,000, you sure don't want the sleepless nights and the stress that'll come with $200,000. And a lot of you talking about, boy, if I just made six figures. Okay, all right, okay, make your six figures. But if you're irresponsible, you're gonna have six-figure type debt. And if you think the hole that you're in now with your $20 and your $200 and your $2,000 is deep, try 100 six-figure and a $200,000 hole. Try digging that one and digging yourself out of it. I'm trying to help you. I'm trying to help you. Anywho,
Yeah. No, and I think too, like if you have me on again, I
will be.
I do want people to understand that we are not financial gurus.
No,
but we can help you.
Mm-hmm.
We can point you in directions. We can sit down and be part of our tribe.
Yes, grow with us.
Yeah, as we move down this journey, together, walk with us. Tell us where you're at.
Yeah.
Hold us accountable, and we can hold you accountable. A lot of it is about accountability.
Absolutely.
As you put yourself out there, that takes bravery, but also putting yourself out there, there's something to be said about somebody that puts that action out there. When you put it out on a goal and you make it visible and you let people know.
Yes.
Now people like to see when you don't succeed.
Right.
So that allow that to inspire you and push you forward to really follow through with what you say.
Do you know how much, Russ, with that? Do you know how much my neck is out on the line now? Because we're putting this podcast, and this is public information, to say I'm going to get to step number 7. Now I got everybody that will ever watch this podcast holding me accountable to that, right?
Yep.
Russ has already, me and Russ have talked about this long before doing this podcast, but he is so right. You got to write that vision and make it plain and then tell people about it, because telling somebody about it holds you accountable to disciplining yourself and making better decisions. And if you were deciding to do something, you rethink what you were going to decide to do, because now you know that people are holding you accountable to not just a dream. This is not more than just a dream. This is a step-by-step. It's a life change. It's changing your mindset, changing your life, becoming a whole new person in terms of how you handle your financial matters. And when you do that, I guarantee you that your life will change, and you're able now to even begin to lay out a different path and future for your children and your family. But hey, thank you all once again. If you're watching via YouTube, press that subscribe button. Make sure that you press that subscribe button, drop some comments on the video. Also, make sure that you subscribe to the channel, press the like button, and press the notification bell. If you're watching via Facebook, share this information, share this content. Once again, 2001, African American, Black people, $1.6 trillion of buying power in America. But yet, according to Black Entrepreneur and according to Black Enterprise and Entrepreneur, we are 2% millionaires, 2%. So share this content. Press the heart button on the video, drop some comments below. Hey, you have been watching the Working People's Podcast, and guess what? We out.